If you've not been here before, my name is Matt. I'm a therapist in private practice. I own a group practice located in New York City. We specialize in treating people with ADHD. Now, with that out of the way, let me first describe to you what ADHD is. Now, just to say, ADHD is actually really complex. It's a complex neurodevelopmental disorder that cannot be easily defined. One of the leaders in the field, Dr. Russell Barclay, wrote an entire book titled ADHD. And in some regard, this entire book is the definition of ADHD. I say that just because ADHD cannot be described simply. Anyone who says that they can sum it up in just one sentence or a few words, that's not correct. It's much more complicated than that. But if we do try our best to sum it up, it is a complex neurodevelopmental disorder that impacts every facet of a person's life. People with ADHD often complain about symptoms such as distractibility, inattentiveness, procrastination, forgetfulness, time management issues, and a bunch of other things. And one of the areas it impacts the most is executive functioning. Now, that's a whole other topic in and of itself, which we'll get to in another video. So then what are the three different types of ADHD? These are in no particular order, but the first one is ADHD impulsive/hyperactive type. The second is ADHD inattentive/distractible type. And finally, we have ADHD combined type. And before we break down each of those, it's important to know where these diagnoses actually come from. And currently it comes from what's known as the DSM-5-TR. This stands for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. It's currently on version 5, and the TR stands for text revision to give it updated language. Now, this is obviously something that changes over time because we're on version 5. So the diagnosis as they stand today, along with the 3 subtypes, they are subject to change, as is any other mental health issue that is in the DSM-5. But currently, these are the 3 different types of ADHD. Now let's break down each of those individually. Now let's start with the ADHD impulsive/hyperactive type. This is quote unquote the stereotypical ADHD people think about. And as the name suggests, some of the symptoms included in this type of ADHD include fidgeting and squirming, being unable to remain seated for long periods of time, difficulty with stopping talking, blurting things out, being impatient, interrupting into other people's conversations, difficulty waiting one's turn, being constantly on the go, or acting as if you are driven by a motor. Now, it's important to know that these are the common symptoms. This does not include everything. This is not exhaustive, but this is what people describe when they deal with the hyperactive type of ADHD. And then the next type of ADHD is the distractible inattentive type. And just as the name suggests, this is when people deal more with distractibility, difficulty paying attention, forgetfulness. This is the ADHD that tends to fly under the radar because it's not so outward. People don't necessarily see people being distracted or having a hard time remembering things. And often when women are misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed with ADHD, or the diagnosis is missed, they often have this type of ADHD, the inattentive type. Now, symptoms in this type of ADHD include the following: difficulty following instructions, appearing as if you're not listening when you're spoken to, being easily distracted, difficulty with following through on tasks or assignments, and forgetfulness. Now again, just like the other type, this is not an exhaustive list, but when people describe symptoms of this type of ADHD, they often describe things like that. And finally, we have the combined type of ADHD, which, just as the name suggests, it's when you have symptoms of both the inattentive type and the hyperactive type. Now, we don't need to review both of those symptom lists together, but you can imagine if someone is describing symptoms in both the hyperactive category and also symptoms in the inattentive category, well, then they might have the combined type of ADHD. Now, we want to look at the DSM-5 to see what number of symptoms are required in order to meet criteria, but that leads into a whole different discussion, which is how is ADHD diagnosed? We will save that for another video, but it is important to know that if you are thinking that you might be dealing with ADHD or you want to be formally evaluated, you should always consult and reach out to a professional. If you're located in the New York area, feel free to reach out to our practice, Progress Therapy, that's PRGRS. We are a therapy practice specializing in the treatment of ADHD. We also complete ADHD evaluations. I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next video.